Welcome to this Caddie CAD surgery video. In this video we'll be looking at one of the aspects of using Caddie and working with DWG that gets raised with our support staff, in this case annotative finishes. So here we're going to explore what are annotative finishes and why we should use them. On our drawing here, or in the paper space, the sheet, we have a sheet with two viewports on it. So one scaled at 1 to 10, one at 1 to 5. The views are of a single detail in the model space, but we wish to represent different amounts of information actually in the viewports. And here annotative finishes are ideal because we can, by virtue of the annotative scale that we tag the objects with, either choose to display them or not, and have it such that their sizes will change in the model space to give us a consistent viewport size. So, having established that our goal is to have a single object, piece of text in this case, which will show the same size in both viewports, even though they're at differing scales, let's see how we can achieve that. So we'll start at the beginning, which is in our model space for us. Now, the properties we can find simply by going to the object properties on our CSM, context sensitive menu, and that gives us the listings for the properties of the workspace. So here we have an annotation scale set. What that means in practice is that if we create any annotation objects now, the text, hatch, dimensions and leaders, then they will be tagged at 1 to 5. So they will automatically scale for a 1 to 5 viewport, but only for a 1 to 5 viewport. At this moment we can add more in, we can take them out, but at this moment only at 1 to 5. We also have a show or anno objects flag. So that's set to no, which means that if the objects are not intended to show at a particular scale, then they won't. So as we move this scale between the scales that we're choosing for our different annotative objects, only the ones will appear which are relevant for that scale. And then the auto add anno scales means that if we were to choose a new annotative scale, it would automatically add that new scale onto our object. Sometimes is a good idea, sometimes isn't what you want, because once it's selected and they're added automatically, you won't be able to switch them off by virtue of that annotative scale. Moving to our annotation objects, so here we have the text leaders and dimensions. We can go to our text parameters. So we have our choice of font, pen and so on, and the size that we want it. And under normal circumstances, so when they're not annotative, we'll see a scale box. So if I knew that I wanted a finished size of 7.5 millimeters, and I knew I was going to be printing out using a viewport at a scale of 1 to 5, then I would simply select the 1 to 5 scale, and that would apply that modifier to the 7.5, scaling it up by 5 times, in order that the viewport could scale it back down. However, when we choose the annotative flag, what happens is we retain the size but in a plotted height. So that's the finished size for our text. We also notice that we have now a bracketed A against the style. So this is an annotative text style. So we OK that, and we can enter our text. So here I'm going to say detail 1, and I'll simply place that down, and we can see this is the same size there, and I'll place it down there. Go to our views and do a regen, and we'll see that the detail 1 appears there but not in this viewport, and that is because we are set not to see all of the annotative objects, whether they're relevant for the viewport scale or not, and we're also set using our viewports to a particular annotative scale, in this case 1 to 10. If I were to choose 1 to 5, then I would see the objects appropriate for that scale, so they don't actually have to match. So back to our views here. If I wanted that detail 1 to appear in here, I could simply go back to my model space, select my object, and then look down for the current allocation of annotation scales. Choose 1 to 10 and include that, and update. go back to my detail, press R for regen, and my text will appear. Editing through the viewport, if I select the text, you'll notice that there are actually two representations, one for the smaller scale, one for the larger scale. So I can move the particular representation there. Selecting to come out of my viewport there, out of the editing mode. Here I just need to change that back to the 1 to 5 to show the difference. So 1 to 5 and the 1 to 10. And we'll see that it's the same piece of text, just in a different location, but the same size in the finished drawing. Going back to my model, we'll see that we're not limited to just text. We can, if we wish, put down leaders. So again, the settings are key in that we have an annotative leader style, and we're going to use that same annotative text style. OK that. And just before placing our leader, we'll just check that our annotation scale is set to the scale that we want it to be. We'll go for our leader, choose the header location, and then simply place our leader there. We'll use the hotkeys at the bottom, so I'm going to add some text. So this will be roof tile, something very simple. OK, and we'll notice that we're actually using here a spline rather than a polyline. But we can choose whichever we wish. And taking our text and moving our text, we'll see that the leader will actually follow on when we move our text too. So back to our drawing, we'll see because the annotation scale here is 1 to 5, our object was set for an annotation scale of 1 to 5, it displays, whereas in this viewport with an annotation scale set to 1 to 10, it doesn't. If I were to change to see all annotative objects, we'll see all of the objects, but not necessarily at the scales at which they will represent when we plot out the drawing. And that's a simple guide to using annotative finishes in your drawings to achieve your presentation goals.